our last summer webinar. It's going to be on Marvin, and that's going to be us in regards of the webinar series for the summer. However, if you want to meet us next, you can meet us on the weekend. The ACS is starting, and we're going to have a symposium in the ACS's program, mainly focusing on patent market analysis and chemical data mining, with speakers from large pharmas. And also don't forget about our UGM, which will be on the 25th and 26th of September in Boston. However, today our senior application scientist, Krisztián Niesz, will give a talk, who holds an MSc degree in chemistry from the University of Szeged, it's a Hungarian university. At the same department, he received his PhD on the synthesis and modification of carbon nanotubes. Krisztián conducted his postdoctoral research at the University of California, Berkeley, in the laboratory of Professor Gábor Somoryai, where he investigated the catalytic properties of nanostructured noble metal particles. Krisztián has also worked in the Institute of Collaborative Biotechnologies at the University of California, Santa Barbara, where he and his colleagues developed methods to scale up the synthesis of industrially relevant oxide materials and investigate potential applications. Furthermore, he has 2 years of industrial experience with microscale flow instruments for pharmaceutical chemistry, and currently he works as an application scientist at ChemAxon. So I'm going to hand over the speaker to him, and let's listen to Krisztián, the sketching chemistry with Marvin.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining, and thank you, Janos, for the nice introduction. So finally, we got to the last webinar of the series of the summer, and today is for Marvin. And my plan actually is twofold. On the one hand, I'd like to talk about the new features which just came out in recent releases. But on the other hand, I also would like to introduce some tips and tricks to you which can make your life easier when you're trying to sketch your chemistry on canvas. Whether you are a computational chemist or a bench chemist, I hope you find it useful in either cases. But before we start, before we jump right in the middle, I'd like to take a little time on the ChemAxon's product map, because I think it's crucial to understand where we are now as a company in terms of covering the different aspects, different areas of chemoinformatics. So these are the tools we have currently, and these are grouped into toolkits, which I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna say a few words of each. Very exciting toolkit is the Discovery Toolkit, which contains tools such as calculator plugins, reactor, fragmenter, you all know it probably, with which the user can generate new and meaningful chemical information. Now, this toolkit is essential, however, they're not yet ready toolkit for processes such as lead discovery or library design. These tools can be used individually in a step-by-step fashion, or they can be actually connected to each other in a workflow fashion. For this, we can use InfoSense, or Pipeline Pilot, or KNIME. We broadcasted a webinar about KNIME and the Discovery Toolkit like 2 weeks ago. I hope you find that useful if you attended. Another important tool or technology what we have is the naming technology that currently attracts a lot of attention, especially from large companies which work in the data mining field. One application there can be patent research. And if you're talking about patent research, that leads us directly to the microchip IP group, which was developed from the beginning in close collaboration with Thomson Reuters, who is a leader in intellectual property research. And pretty much, or most of these tools, what you see here, can be accessed via our out-of-the-box desktop applications, such as JChem for Excel and Instant JChem. And we finally got to the last group, the IT platform, which in my mind, that's the heart and soul of ChemAxon's technology. This contains or includes tools for database management, searching, JChem cartridge you can connect to Oracle database, or standardizer, checker, very important tools for setting up reliable databases. And one quick addition to this slide is that, which tells you how aggressively we developed products at ChemAxon. If you compare this product map to the one from the beginning of this year, you could see that at that time we were short of the Spotfire, IGC Spotfire integration, which provides an enhanced visualization to the customers or to the users. And at that time we didn't have document structure in the product map, or JChem for SharePoint was missing. So a lot of things happened just within 6 months. And I can tell you that a lot of other things will happen in the future, and a lot of other softwares or programs or are in the pipeline. So keep your eyes open. The Marvin Suite is a collection of chemical drawing, visualizing, and analyzing tools. Marvin Sketch is a basic sketcher. Marvin View is for visualizing single or multiple compounds in a table. For Marvin Space is for three-dimensional visualization. It's extremely useful if you want to retrieve protein structures, for instance. And we have a command line program which is more converter that converts in between different file types. Now what you need to know about Marvin is that you can download it from the website free of charge if it's going to be used not as an integral part of a more complex application. It is available as a Java bean to be installed and run on your computer, or it can be implemented into websites and third-party applications through a powerful API, or it can be used as an applet or as an end-user application via the web using Java website. And nonetheless, it's available or it can be run in a .NET environment, not just Java environment. Okay, so this was the introduction, and let's go to the demo. So I'm going to open Marvin. Okay, and for the demo I've chosen several examples. The example is really for synthetic medicinal chemist, and we're going to draw a chemical reaction. So we're actually going to draw the last step of a multi-step reaction, which is to produce latiprimine, which is a hypoxanthine derivative drug with neuroprotective effects. That's actually can be a potential treatment for neurodegenerative disorders such as Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's disease, or even stroke. And we're going to focus on the last step of this reaction. And this reaction is an ester amide interchange, just for the chemist. Before we start dropping all sorts of chemical compounds on the canvas, I'd like to emphasize that that's especially important for users who are new to ChemAxon and new to Marvin and used to use different chemical sketches before, that you can go ahead and customize and configure Marvin according to your needs, according to your taste. If you go into View and Configurations, you can have different types of views. If you used ChemDraw before, you may want to choose that, or IsisDraw. Even can go to Customize, and you can, for instance, set up your shortcuts for the job. Okay, so the reaction again is an ester amide interchange, and so first we're going to draw the reactants, and the first reactants is a purine-based derivative, and we're not going to start from scratch. Instead, we're going to go and call for the template library. In the template library, you can see we have many groups, and a lot of these groups have dozens of already pre-drawn structures in it. We're going to go to the heterocycles and choose from that. And the reactant, one of the reactants is a purine-based reactant. So we're just going to put purine here. Now we start modifying it. We're going to add the double-bonded oxygen, and you realize that the carbon atom got underlined in red, which means that a structure checker, which is integrated, immediately recognize the problem in there is an error in the structure. What can we do with that? So I think it's pretty obvious now that problem comes with the valence of the carbon, so we can easily correct that. And now it's good. We're going further.
Okay, so the same things happens here. Structure checker is turned on and it's recognized another valence error here. We corrected that. We turn it into an ester group. We had a benzene ring and we're almost done with the first reagent or reactant. We added an abbreviated group here, a nitro group. We have quite a lot of abbreviations supported at this moment. If there's something missing, you can easily add it to your template. One thing I wanted to show you that is how to rotate functional groups. When you see this icon, you'll be able to rotate it by 12 degrees. If you press down the shift, then you can rotate it much smoother. If you keep pressing the space, then you'll be able to rotate it in 3 dimensions. This looks pretty ugly now, so what we can do with it is we can 2D clean it, and we got the first reagent or reactant ready. We can add the second reactant, which is a para-ethyl benzoate. Again, we're using an abbreviated group here. If we right click on it, we can expand that group to see the full structure. We can contract it. And now we're adding the reagent. This reaction is a base catalyzed reagent or reaction, so the catalyst is a sodium hydroxide in this case. And we're done with the reactants. We're gonna add the product, but for that we're not gonna use the Marvin drawing functions. We're gonna add the product using our naming technology, more specifically the name to structure. And we can do it and copy paste Leti premium from an Office document or a browser, or we can just drag and drop it. Okay. So please realize that the tooltip still has Leti premium on it, so we can place it down multiple times if we want. I'm going to place it in a little bit different pace. Okay, and one more product we need to add, and that's a nitrophenol. Again, we're using our keyboard and adding abbreviated groups. So this we created, or we put down all the compounds we need for the reaction, but it still doesn't look like a reaction. What's missing is the reaction arrow. We have several different ones. Above the line, these are the reaction arrows. Below the line, these are the graphical arrows. So what's the difference between the two? The reaction arrow, if you place it down, everything what's left from the reaction arrow is going to be taken into account as a reactant, and everything what's right from it is going to be the product, and everything what's above it is going to be a catalyst or a reagent. Graphical arrows, we cannot do that, although those arrows are very useful if we want to do a multi-step reaction. We just use a simple reaction arrow, and please realize that the plus signs appeared. So these are the reactants, and this group here is the products, immediately recognized. Okay, so we have the reaction now. It's still a little bit ugly, so what we're gonna do with it is we're going to select everything and align it horizontally. So this looks like a reaction. The Leti premium's orientation is a little bit different than the reagent. So we're just going to the transformation and flip it. and this looks perfect now. Okay, so we're done with the reaction. You may want to map the atoms. We can do that several ways. One way is go into the structure menu and map it automatically, and each of the atoms gonna have numbers assigned to them. This is the automatic way. We can do it manually using our keyboard. Let's say this atom here is gonna be atom number 1. Oops. And this atom is the same, atom number 1. Or we can use again the reaction arrow for this purpose as well. Okay, so these atoms are mapped. Another thing what we can do with it, if you want to make it look like a little bit nicer or fancier, we can add, we can insert electron flows. For that, we are going to display the lone pairs first, and then if we go into the insert menu, we can add the electron flows. Let's say from here to here, and from here to here. Okay, so this is how the reaction looks like, and we know that one of the steps of this reaction, which I've just drawn, that's a base catalyzed step. So what's going to happen if we're not using any base, but let's say we do the reaction in just water. At room temperature. I guess you can figure it out. Nothing's gonna happen. So we can use a totally different set of graphical arrows. Okay, and for this we use the text box as well. We can name the reaction now. This is an ester amide interchange, and we can name the product. It's latiprimine. Okay, so this looks like a reaction now. If you finish drawing your reaction, you can save it. If you go into the file menu, you can save it as an image, or you can save it as an MRV file. I've done it before. I've saved it as under the name of synthesis of latiprimine, but if you click on save, there are several options provided by Marvin, which were not available before. The first is, so save all the molecules in one and into one file. Another option is save as one file containing multiple molecules separately, or the third is save the molecules in separate files. If you do the first, I already done that. Then this is what we get back. This is displayed in Marvin view. Another option is, if you're preparing a report or if you're preparing a PowerPoint presentation, you can copy paste everything as an OLE object into the Office document you're using. So just Control A and select everything and copy as an OLE object, and then you can paste it into your presentation. Here it is, and you can make modifications later on if you want. Okay, so I've shown you a couple of things. Another thing, or other things, what we can do is we can call for structure-based calculations, but for that I'm going to delete everything but the product latiprumine. And probably I'm not gonna need the lone pairs, so I'm just gonna select them, and I don't need the mapping either. Okay.
So we have the latiprumine here. What else can we do with it? We can call for calculations. These are structure-based calculations. If you're interested in the naming, although we know that it's the common name, one of the common names is latiprumine, but we have an option to get the UPAC name. And I just created a cut before. So if we anyway, the UPAC name can be inserted too, and it's going to be under the structure. If we want, we can go online, find structure online. For this, we can go into the ChemSpider or PubChem database, or we can use our own, which is chemicalize.org. That's our free public browser tool. We have several options. We're going to do an exact search. And if we do that, this is the default screen, what we get back. The latiprumine structure here, and with some physical-chemical properties. But we also can go to the web and do some web searches. This is powered by Google, and we're going to get back tons of websites which contains latiprumine and similar structures too. So there is a connection between Marvin and the web, which is kind of useful. Other calculations, pKa, log P, log D, that's as usual. Conformers we can calculate. In this case, I'm going to show you, I'm going to calculate the lowest energy conformer, which is here. It's pretty fast. It's been using molecular mechanics force field. Or we can go and get or predict the NMR spectra of the compound. This is a new addition to the calculator plugins. We have a chance to go to and do some calculations for the carbon-13 spectra and the proton spectra. And this is how it looks, the structure. Here you can see the spectra, the compound, and some spectral information here, some coupling information too. The nice thing with it is the interactivity between the different windows and the peak to atom assignment. Other function, if we modify this molecule, and if we go back, we can update the spectra instantly. Okay, so this was the first example I have for today. The second example is drawing a Marquis structure with the most, or some of the most representative features we currently provide. And then we're going to enumerate the structure, and that way we're going to simulate the compound enumeration step in a virtual library design process. So for this, we take a benzene ring, and let's say that this bond here can be a single or double bond. We can choose it from the bond menu, or we just can use the shortcut, which is predefined, and it's 12 in this case. We have an atom list. We can call for just using the keyboard. So this atom here can be a carbon, nitrogen, and sulfur. We have an option to drop a position variation bond here. And this means that this functional group here, this chain, can be either in this atom or this atom. We make a little bit further. We can add a link node here, which is sort of like a repetition unit for that CH2 species. Or we add generic groups, 2 of them, R1 and R2. Now we define those R groups. I don't know, going away. Okay. We're going to define those R1 and R2. This is going to be R1. Just one more. And R2 is going to be a simple, just halogens. Now, we select them, and we can assign them to R1. And please note that in case of R1, all these substituents have different attachment points. Oops. That attachment point can be actually changed just by right-clicking on it. Attachment order can be changed here, or the ligand order can be changed here. Now we do the same thing for the other. In this case, there is only one attachment point, obviously. Now we can go a little bit fancier and do a R group in R group, nested R group. And we're just selecting it. Oops. Why? Sorry. Oh. I'm gonna do it again, I believe. Let's just do it with 2 then. So R3, attachment points here and there. So this is how it looks now, our Markov structure. If we want to use it as a query structure, in searches we can go into the periodic system advanced tab, and we can assign query properties to atoms. These query properties, we have a wide variety. For instance, ring count, which is really the number of rings the atom is a member. We can change that. Or we have substitution count, or we can find if the atom has only aromatic bonds or aliphatic bonds. What we're going to do instead, we're going to add a homology group into the structure and enumerate that homology group as well. So we can do it either here, or a more convenient way is use our shortcuts again. CHK in this case, it means alkyl, and that's compatible with Thomson-Reuters' notation. So these two things are totally compatible with each other. And we can enumerate the structure now according to Markov enumeration. Now here we have multiple options. If we are interested only in the library size, we can do that, or sequential enumeration or random enumeration. Random enumeration, we can maximize the number of compounds we are interested in. In this case, it's 10,000. Homology groups can be enumerated, and we have some displaying functions too. And if you do that, you're going to get the 10,000 structures right away. We can generate names and SMAs, systematic NUPAC names and SMAs, and we can save it for later. So this is pretty handy if you do compound enumeration. The last example what I have for today is really just a displaying function, and it may seem to be a little small addition to the already existing wide variety of such functions, but if you're working with amino acids or peptide sequences, that you may find it useful. If you go into edit, you can add peptide or amino acid sequences. Usually, what you get used to in the past, you add those amino acids in a 3-letter code, but now you can do it with 1-letter codes as well, which is pretty handy. So AGSC means that alanine, glycine, serine, lysine, and cysteine. That wasn't available in the past, but if you do that now, you will see that Marvin recognized it as a peptide sequence with 1-letter codes immediately, and we can import that structure. We can expand the groups, one click, contract them, or if we want, we can go into and change it back to the 3-letter codes. If you want to visualize these in 3 dimensions, you can go into View and call for Marvin Space. And here is your 3-dimensional peptide. With Marvin Space, you can add surfaces to it too. So I'm just going to add the van der Waals surface to this. Okay, so these were the examples for today. I'm going back to the PowerPoint presentation and talk a little bit, just really quickly, about the futures, what's pipelined for the future. Obviously, we want to extend the journal types, styles, what we have currently. We have a few, but in the future we're going to have much more. It's very important for publications. We want to have the ability to call for an OCR, OCR programs, optical character recognition programs like OSRA, from a central computer to avoid the installation of such programs in each client. This is going to go through web services. We want to have the ability to add structural property fields to the SDF file of the compound. This would contain not only names and IDs, but for instance, if the compound is toxic or not. We want to integrate chemical terms into Marvin and do such more complex physical-chemical calculations and display the results under the structure in a table format. We're going to integrate Marcus Viewer into Marvin to get a better overview and this, our group definition organized in a better way to show that through Marvin. And we also, these are the main features, but we have some smaller features too, some painting, designing features, which is just going to come out soon. And one is to get different options to visualize lone pairs or charges on the molecules. So these are pipelined, and you could see these in the coming Marvin sketchers soon. So this was pretty much what I had for today. And thank you for your attention, and hope to see you next time in the next release, which is gonna be sometime in October or November, early November. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.